Alright, you're back for another reaction video. Why is Moldova not part of Romania? Uh, this is done by living ironically in Romania, which I've done a video with him in the past, a video reacting to his video in the past, and he does amazing. So I'm excited to see why he thinks Moldova is not part of Romania or what he has to say. It'll be really interesting. I think Moldova is an incredible country. I wish it could be part of Romania again, but I know the country's kind of 50-50 split, so let's get started here.
Moldova is a small country located in Eastern Europe, squished between the country where all wallets seem to magically disappear, and a country where Russian generals also magically vanish. The country has seen many conflicts and wars throughout its history, and as such many of its neighbors have claimed it as a part of their jurisdiction, and thus with a language and flag barely distinguishable from Romania's. You probably wonder,
What
why
a
is
jokester.
Moldova even an independent country? Where and when did it all
This is why I like his stuff. He's funny. Like he cracks jokes, and it's yeah. Some things are like real, but he kind of is like funny about it. So I like this.
all start, and what did those events lead to? Well, in this video you're going to find out. The territory of Moldova was populated from ancient times. Its first appearance in history debuted as an outpost of the Roman Empire. Before the 14th century, Moldova was repeatedly invaded by Goths, Huns, Avars, Magyars, Mongols, and other throat-singing barbarians.
Cheeseburger, Big Mac, Whopper, hamburger, cheeseburger, Big Mac, Whopper.
However, the more
That was interesting.
modern history of Moldova can be traced to the medieval times in the mid-14th century, when the Principality of Moldavia was founded under the Kingdom of Hungary and the rule of Bogdan I. Between the 14th
I didn't know Bogdan the First was the first ruler of
and the 19th
Moldova.
century, Moldova was in a lush state. They were constantly at war against the Ottomans and other kingdoms who aimed to cease their wine-drinking ways.
I'm not having a glass of wine. I'm having 6. It's called a tasting and it's classy.
However, in the middle of the 16th century, Moldova succumbed to all pressure, and after the long and drawn-out campaign against the Ottomans, the Principality finally fell under their control. For nearly 4 centuries since the Ottomans took over Moldavia, it existed as a principality within their empire, until it was annexed by the Russian Empire after the end of the Russo-Turkish War and renamed to Bessarabia in the beginning of the 19th century. At the end of the Crimean War in the mid-19th century, the southern part
Which I don't know if he'll talk about this. I don't think he will at this point, but Moldova during that time and Romania, even though they were part of like the Turkish or the Ottoman Empire, they were all speaking Romanian still. It's not like they were speaking Turkish. I mean, definitely some people spoke Turkish, and it was like very useful as a second language, but most people still just spoke Romanian at home.
parts of Bessarabia were returned to Moldova, and Russia lost access to the Danube River. In the same century, the principalities of Moldova and Wallachia united and formed the Romanian United Principalities, which was then a vassal state of the Ottoman Empire. At the end of the 19th century, Romania gained independence and was given Dobruja, which was part of the Ottoman Empire during that time. Moldova would go on to make a democratic republic and unite with Romania, which would, generally speaking, piss off the Russians, who still couldn't get over the fact that they were unable to enjoy the sweet scent of human feces coming from the banks of the river Danube. After the Russian Revolution in the beginning of the 20th century, a Romanian nationalist movement would start to develop in Bessarabia, which after the Russian revolutions that began during World War I would lead to the forming of a Moldavian Democratic Republic.
Democratic Republic of Moldova and independence. Oh, okay.
A country that would be separated from Romania and would last just 1 year. When World War I began, it brought in a rise in political and cultural awareness among the people of Bessarabia, which led to many Bessarabians getting drafted into the Russian army. In the beginning of the 20th century in Odessa, the newly communist Russia proclaimed a Bessarabian Soviet Socialist Republic, a country with a goal to establish a Soviet Republic within Bessarabia, and it was also a country that had the most creative flag, matched only in creativity by the French. The country was officially established in Tiraspol as an autonomous part of the Russian Soviet Federative Socialist Republic. Meanwhile,
Which Tiraspol still kind of it's part of Transnistria, which is kind of like a breakaway state at this point. So it's still part of Moldova, but they operate under their own rule essentially, and they want to be part of Russia still. It's kind of interesting.
The neighboring region of Transnistria, part of the Ukrainian
There you go.
SSR at the time, would be formed into the Moldovan Autonomous Soviet Socialist Republic, a few years after the Bessarabian Soviet Socialist Republic was formed. After the end of World War I, the Bessarabian state decided to unite with Romania, and that unity would have lasted until the mid-20th century. However, within the same century, the Molotov-Ribbentrop Pact was signed between the world's unfunniest nation and a nation that millennials think actually had a good economy, which resulted in the Bessarabia region suffering brutal occupations under both the Soviets and Nazis. Even though Moldova's population was only 30% ethnic Russian, the Russians were thinking that Bessarabia and Northern Bukovina belonged to them. So at the beginning of World War II, they crossed the Dniester River and occupied both those regions. After that, the Moldovan SSR was established almost 2 months later. 1 year later, by participating in the Axis invasion of the Soviet Union, Romania, that was pro-German during that time, seized the lost territories of Bessarabia, Northern Bukovina, as well as those from the former Moldovan ASSR.
Oh,
3 years
interesting.
later, successful offensives of the Soviet army occupied northern Moldova and Transnistria, and after that the entire territory would be under Soviet control. When World War II ended, the territory remained part of the Soviet Union as the Moldovan Soviet Socialist Republic. In the new political conditions introduced by Mikhail Gorbachev, a democratic movement of Moldova was formed, which would lead to independence of Moldova. The MSSR was forced to proclaim the Moldovan language to be the state language of the country. Because of the
Which Russia did this because they wanted, maybe he'll talk about this, but Russia did this because they wanted Moldovans to feel more Russian, which Romanian and Moldovan are like the same language. It's changed a little bit now because like more people speak Russian, so there's some like Russian words thrown in, but it's still like the same language. But Russia just wanted to feel like Moldovans were separate from Romanians.
dissolution of the Soviet Union that was 3 years long and failed to attempt to seize control of the country from Mikhail Gorbachev, Moldova claimed its independence on the 21st of August 1991, and the day after their independence, the Soviet Union ceased to exist. The consequences of Moldova's independence would be economic collapse, poverty, and the Transnistria War, which was an armed conflict that broke out during the end of the 20th century between Moldova and Russo-Transnistria. When the border between Moldova and Romania opened, it led to many people in Transnistria and Moldova to believe that the union between those two countries was inevitable. Both nations spoke more or less the same language, had a similar history and culture. Thus, Transnistrians, who mainly identified
This is why I always say, like, when I say Romanians, I literally mean like Romanians and Moldovans. They are so, so similar.
as Russians and Ukrainians took up arms in an effort to secede from Moldova. The war was almost 2 years long, and the goal for Transnistria was to become an independent state. The war effort was sort of successful as Transnistria was able to distance itself from Moldovan influence with the help of Russian intervention. But even though it proclaimed itself to be independent, it still remains internally recognized as a part of Moldova, much like some other places. Kosovo.
Are you really the last person to find out about the skip ads forever button? This is Pi, and if it sounds
I don't
familiar
need to
to you,
see
it's
these
probably
ads.
because you
A small number of people died compared to other wars fought in the same century that were more catastrophic and had more casualties. Although Russia helped Transnistria gain its quote-unquote independence, it is still yet to recognize Transnistria as an independent country, and has shown no interest in doing so. The consequences after this war would almost be catastrophic for Moldova, especially during the beginning of the 21st century, because it led to an economic crisis, leaving most of the population below the poverty line.
What happens when countries run out of cash? They either go commie or they go fash.
Which would also result in many Moldovans leaving the country as well.
This guy's funny sometimes. Sometimes it's a little erratic. Yeah, Moldova's like economic situation is not very good. Like I've been to like South American countries or Central American countries, and Moldova a lot of times has felt like less well off economically than those countries have.
Well, Moldova currently has more than 3 million people living in their country, After the fall of the Soviet Union, their
That's
independence,
beautiful,
and the
look at that.
Transnistrian War, Moldova was proclaimed as one of the poorest countries in Europe, where tourism and a lot of things are just starting to develop. A poll from January of 2022 showed that although the Moldovan culture and language is similar to Romanian, more than half of Moldovans don't support the union with Romania. So there is definitely no chance that Moldova will unite with Romania anytime soon. Moldova's government's primary goal now is to join the European Union, much like other countries found within the funny zone. The thing that is stopping Moldova from joining the EU right now is the level of poverty in the country, and the Transnistria conflict that is still ongoing. Especially this year, when the war between Russia and Ukraine started, when there was a series of incidents in which the Tiraspol airport and the building of the Ministry of State Security were also bombed. So to answer the question, why is Moldova an independent country? Well, the answer, my dear viewers, is because they want to be. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope that you learned
That song's written by Moldovans. Like, that's a Moldovan group that sang that song.
something new today about Moldova. If you wish to support my work, consider becoming a member like these wonderful people.
That's awesome.
Mickey D.
Yeah. I will link the video below in the description so you can go follow this guy. Subscribe to him, I guess I should say. But it is absolutely crazy how Moldova should be part of Romania, in my opinion. I don't know how it would affect people, but over the course of multiple centuries, their histories have kind of been combined, their language have kind of been combined, their culture has been very similar. There's even a part of Romania called the region of Moldova. So it's just kind of like it should happen. It should have never been taken and given to another country. It's a beautiful country, beautiful area of the world that really is rich, and the people are absolutely incredible. So if you ever have the chance to go to Moldova, I know it's probably one of the least visited countries, probably the least visited country in Europe, but it is amazing. It is incredible. I love the Moldovan people. They have a strong space in my heart, just like the Romanians do. And when I say Romanians, I'm talking about you guys. You are also incredible, you Moldovans. So thank you guys for watching. Hopefully you did get something good out of this reaction video. But make sure you subscribe. We'll check you later. Love you guys.